MXM. Oh, there we go. Now we got the recording going. Blair here with MXM, CEO at MXM, MXMetrics. And today we have one of our key customers from BeFit by Bob's, Trey McLean. Hi, Trey. You are frozen in where you are right now.
Yeah, we've got ice and sleet coming down right now. So it's a fun day here in Evansville, Indiana.
So on the last webinar, I shared some photos from the 2 feet of snow that we got overnight. I'm going to share a photo. I am actually in San Antonio at the very southern end of that same front that kind of came through there. Our youngest son, who I'll point out right back here, is just graduating from a special forces called TACP, Tactical Air Control Party. And this is the 15 guys that made it through. So we're down here in San Antonio, very proud, and for his graduation tomorrow. So I got to witness some of the weather, but not as bad as where you are right now. So I'm going to a little bit about BeFit by Bob's. 4 locations, used to be called Bob's Gyms, now called BeFit by Bob's. They are, of their 4 gyms, 3 of them 1-hour locations of excellence awards of being able to achieve in a trailing 6-month period metrics on 5 key metrics of 9.0 or higher. The 4th one missed that 5th metric by a tenth of a point. But kudos to you and your team on that. That was pretty impressive, Trey.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get to see if we can retabulate those results, get that 4th location. Really disappointed.
Excellent work.
Thank you.
And I wouldn't. That happens because of your people.
Absolutely.
And we're actually doing employee feedback for you also, right?
Yeah, so we've been doing that for a couple of years. Just the last week, we launched our latest round. So all these smiling faces and several others are giving us some employee feedback right now, telling us as an employer, how are we doing in the fitness industry?
And you don't get that level of excellence. That just doesn't happen by accident. There's very deliberate leadership and management practices that you have to do. Putting the customer at the center of what you do, putting the employee at the center of what you do, is what gets to that level of engagement where all of these faces are representing your customer experience vision. They might not do things exactly the same as you, and peace they shouldn't, but they start to represent your customer experience vision, and they're the ones that really start to create that inertia where you can sit back and be proud. You're still managing, you're still leading, you're still making sure that customer and employee feedback is at the center of what you do. But that's how you get that level of engagement. And so I found this picture. I was in your photos, obviously, on your Facebook pages.
Yeah.
What is this?
So when we rebranded, we came up with a mascot for our kids club area. That's Fix the Bee, and we made little temporary tattoos. And this is actually on the arm of the person we call our youngest manager, Bryce, who has grown up in the gym. Quite literally, his mom was pregnant with Bryce while she worked for us. She had Bryce, took a couple of years away, came back to the gym, worked in our kids club. Now Bryce sits at the front counter most days and does his schoolwork from his homeschooling homework at our shake bar. If a member comes in, he greets the member. If he gets done with his homework, he starts looking for things to do. He'll make a shake for a member. He'll go around and empty the trash. He's just grown up in the club, but so he's modeling our new branding, but really he's also modeling who we want to be. He does such a phenomenal job of just caring for people and being a part of our team. And he's not even on payroll yet, but that's just a matter of a few years.
So, that's funny. When you really get engagement, it's when your employees breed and train their own replacements.
Yeah, and quite literally that's happening in this case.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, I know that's happened. We've had that happen in our clubs, where it's now the 2nd generation of employee that's coming into the, so I'll cover this framework a little bit, and we're going to focus mostly on money on the ground. But we think it's really important that you're constantly thinking about the member experience and business. Like, what are the business objectives and how can we be successful with our business objectives? Because the customer is actually paying all the bills. They're the ones that are paying the bills, right? They're the ones that have the money. So money on the ground, money on the table, and money on the balance sheet is a framework we would like people to think through about the types of actions they take around member and employee feedback. So money on the ground is always sort of quick and easy to do. You got to have really good workflows to make it easy and make it available to everybody. That's just a reach out to an individual. Money on the table, that's more, you might reach out to the individual, but you're also going to pull that information inside, make changes to the company. And money on the balance sheet is really about when everybody is sort of aligned and like all those smiling faces, when I said it's when they're out there representing what you want represented in your customer experience vision. So specifically, money on the ground just sort of saves sales and servicing. Right? We'll look at that when we go through some of your cases and hear how your team handles this. Money on the table, that's bringing it in, creating efficiencies in process, lots of opportunities for product improvement, policy changes. There's other things too, but the point is that we bring it in and we constantly improve our product by changing something in the machine. And then lastly, money on the balance sheet, that shows up as reduced churn. We have one large customer that when they really started putting the customer at the center, onboarding their employees through kind of what we call cultural onboarding, real full day of training, they completely offset the increase in minimum wage with the reduction in churn. And that is just pure money. And then what we point out with BeFit by Bob's is just the strategy alignment. Now, I don't mean strategic alignment. I mean alignment with the strategy. And you guys have been very explicit about having the customer experience strategy. In fact, before we go into these cases, Jenny is our VP of Customer Success, said that in a conversation with you, you had mentioned that you'd almost completely transformed the way that you guys manage and run this company based on customer feedback and employee feedback, member feedback and employee. Can you cover that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I would say when we started listening to our customers and being intentional and having a system that we were working through, right? For a long time, we had little comment cards hanging in the lobby, right? But there was no intentional plan for how we were going to handle those. But when we got in a system and started using it, and then eventually when we transitioned to MXM, it changed who we are as a company. Part of it, I mean, we literally changed our whole model. We went from a mid-tier price point, and the consistent thing we saw from our members was, we love the gym, it's just really expensive. It's really tough to keep that membership. And so we started asking the question, can we lower our prices? And we actually did that in 2017. We lowered our prices by $30 a month per member, allowed our members out of contracts and into this new price point. It was not a real exciting time at our gym. It was a real scary time. We gave up a lot of revenue initially, but our members were telling us what other people in our community were experiencing and thinking at the same time, that I'm really interested in the gym. I just not sure I can afford it. But when we lowered it, the number of members that we got out of that process completely made sense, and we got even really, really quickly. A couple of years ago, right before COVID, we said, we've learned a lot from our members. What if we learn from our employees? And so we started with the employee engagement in January or February of 2020, just in time for COVID to come around and hit. But one of the things that came out of that clearly for us was our employees loved us, but they didn't think we did a great job on communication and communicating with them. And so we started researching during COVID and during the shutdown, how can we do a better job of communicating with our team, making them feel heard? And to that point, we had been a complete Google company, right? So if you became an employee at Bob's at the time, or BeFit, you got your own at b.fit email address, and everybody from our Group X instructor to my daughter, who was 16 working the front desk, she had her own email address, right? But they didn't live and breathe email,
Right.
and they weren't communicating. And so we started looking for other options, and we stumbled across a service called Basecamp, and we test drove it. We fired a bullet, to borrow from Jim Collins. We tested it with our leadership team and then with our managers, and said, we think this works. We rolled it out to the company. The price point is minimal, $99 a month. We were paying $50 an email. So we had savings financially. So that was money on the balance sheet in the end, right? But what we also found is that our team started engaging and talking. And then a year later, when we rolled through and reevaluated with our team through the next round of employee surveys, communication now was one of our strengths. It was, and so then the next thing was, they're going, well, community engagement. We want to see more community engagement, which we've been doing for a long time. But it taught us that we need to be intentional about telling our staff, sharing with our staff, and more importantly, inviting our staff in to what we were doing on the community engagement side. And so now all of a sudden we said, we want to be involved in the community. We want you to be involved in the community. How do we do that? And we had team members say, we want to create a volleyball tournament, sand volleyball tournament that we host for this nonprofit in town. And so they drove it. They made it happen. Our team went out to a local park one day, had a volleyball tournament, raised a few $100s for a local charity. And we had staff engagement. We had staff time together, and they were driving it, right? And so when we listen to our employees, they're the most valuable resource we have. But they're also telling us what's the next innovation that's going to make our system run smoother, cleaner, and more efficient. And when we listen to our members, they're not telling us just what our members think, they're also telling us what our prospects are thinking. And we get great returns on that when we start listening to those people.
Yeah. So God, there's just so much. There's so much right there. All the way from going back to when you changed the business model. I think if I remember right, you guys had quite a bit of low cost competition and pressure around. And when you changing,
they were getting ready to move in, right? Planet was getting ready to move in. Fitness 19 had come into the area. We weren't in a place where we had to do it, but we were going to need to do it, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't just the price drop. There was a whole strategy around that. And and I think that's a mistake a lot of people make when they do it, is they just lower the price without really looking at the entire business model and making sure that the business model is ready for that.
Exactly.
But what's interesting is probably with a very large increase in membership base, you still had this improvement in member experience by focusing on customer experience throughout that. The Basecamp thing is really interesting, because oftentimes in communication with employees, we get them that company email, but then you got to remember, or we all have to remember, that people that are younger don't use email that much. And if it's not a constant flow of communication, why would you go check it? Right. So I think that Basecamp story is awesome. And the fact that you could actually save quite a bit of money by using Basecamp, and I suppose they probably have an app or something that people can go in and.
Yeah, they have an app, and they've got it set up, use message boards. There's what they call their campfire, which is like just that group chat experience, right? We had employees asking questions, what's your favorite TV show you're binging, right? And then they just start talking. And so it's not all even fitness or gym related, right? Sometimes it's just getting to know each other. And, especially, we work, all night long. We got third shift employees, we got first shift employees, we've got 4 locations. And what we found is our third shift guy at the north side is really, really funny. But nobody gets to know them because they're not there at 3 a.m. right? But Randy, he's a Basecamp rock star because he engages, and so at 2:00 in the afternoon when he wakes up, he's putting witty comments on Basecamp and engaging with the team, and we're getting to know Randy, even though personally I don't want to be there at 1 a.m. to get to know Randy.
Right. A lot of times with those 24-hour shifts or weekend shifts, people become an isolated island. This Basecamp story is awesome. And I want anybody who's listening, if you have questions, make sure you post put those in the in the chat, and Bear is gonna, I think Bear, hopefully you're managing questions. I mean, I'll look for them as well. But if you have questions on anything here, just post them. We'll have some time for Q&A here. Got it, Bear, thank you. Okay, onward. I'm gonna go through a few pieces of feedback. I'm gonna give some context here. So BeFit by Bob's captures the whole customer journey. So this is early member feedback is what we call it. And so the member has joined within the last 30, 45 days. They visited the gym at least 3 times. And then we ask specific questions that are very actionable. And that member gets to score on a 0 to 10 on those specific metrics and provide some commentary. So I'll cover the metrics, and then we're just going to talk about money on the ground here. What happens with a piece of feedback like this at Bob's, and then we'll talk a little bit about process. So in this case, they've given an 8 on likely to recommend, overall experience is a 7, felt valued as a 6, felt welcomed as a 5. I understand what exercise services are provided as a 4, feel comfortable using exercise equipment is a 3, and how confident that you've begun a sustainable routine is a 2.
Why do you don't have 2 more questions, Bear? We'd be in trouble.
Yeah, we have this. God, there's a trend line there. So, but the facilities are good. What I'm going to do, there's an open box comment there. You've read it. Yep. So this comment comes in. Talk to us about what happens. Like, what do you see here? Where's the money on the ground, and what happens at BeFit?
Yeah, so this comes in. Our leadership team gets a daily report every morning in our inbox from the team at MXM. We're looking at the comments as they come in. We get to see obviously high level summary of what's going on. We get to see the open box comments. And so it helps keep us in tune with what's going on across all our clubs. At this club at our Newburgh location, they got this feedback. And then their assistant manager or their manager really starts, diving into it and really should be exploring, what's going on. In this case, the trainer, was spending 10 days away from the location per, requirement. So that's why she hadn't met with Rick yet. But those bottom metrics, that 4, that 3, that 2, that I understand what exercise services are provided, what I feel comfortable with the exercise equipment. I have a plan in place. When those go red, that's an alarm in our system that this person needs an orientation, right? They need to meet with a trainer, and they need to be shown how to use the equipment, maybe even talk through with a plan. They are great leads for personal training because they don't have a sustainable exercise plan in place. And so in this case, she's get connected with Ricky. Rick is phenomenal with new members. He is fantastic with people who are just starting their fitness journey. I meet with him once a week personally. He is fantastic at what he does. So once he's back and they've met now, I know in this particular case, they've actually met 3 times since this report's come out. I'm confident that when we get her on the core program survey in the next few months, some of these scores will be a little bit higher because she's working with a trainer who's answering. But while he's out, hopefully our manager, the next time she comes in, will stop, find her and help her, get at least introduced to a couple pieces of equipment that she can use while she waits to get connected with Rick. And it's following up with her. And obviously the equipment and the facilities, location, those are all great things for her. But making sure that she's not, that word that I don't like there is, she says, I feel very intimidated and overwhelmed. And in big boxes, that's easy to happen. But for us, to be personal and say, can we help you get connected and find, what it takes to take that next step.
So, okay, so a few things are happening then when feedback comes in early in the morning. The leadership team is getting push reports. That keeps you guys engaged with that feedback and what's going on. But this is rolling in, right? The people that are getting their hands dirty with it are the managers and assistant managers, and at the location level, right? And they're the ones that make it easy to pick up the money on the ground. And your leadership team is the one that can get obstacles out of their way to make that easier for the front lines to do that?
Yeah, when we see trends and patterns and consistency across clubs with, here's an issue that every club's experiencing, right? Then we know that we need to make a change on a higher level, right? Not money on the ground now, but now it's money on the table maybe, right? So we need to do a system-wide change. But for our assistant manager here, she's going to be able to meet with this person. She's going to know the name, she's going to know the face.
So, and you're
sense of community.
You're funny. You're breaking up just a little bit, but that's okay, because I think we got the gist of what you were saying. I want to point out a couple of things here, because you said something when we see a trend across gyms, right? So let's say that's why this is so important, because you could think this is just money on the ground, and if it's one comment, it is just money on the ground. But what if you're consistently getting this comment across all 4 locations? Now there's a money on the table issue, because we're probably not engaging with the people early enough after point of sale and getting them an orientation or getting them more involved. That was Trey, that was like the perfect example what you just gave there when you said, if once we see that trend, we're going to bring that inside and we're going to change process. And yeah, that's more money on the table. That's exactly right. And that's what I want people to really know, is that the money on the ground is easy and quick. That's reaching out to the customer, just like you talked about here. But when you see those trends, man, now you're moving towards money on the table. Want to move up towards money on the balance sheet? Include your teams in solving those process problems, get them more engaged. And that starts to help money on the balance sheet as people get more engaged, feel more purpose in their role, less likely to churn out as an employee. That's excellent example. Okay, we're going to look at another one. Anything you want to add there? Or you want me to click off to the next one?
You can go to the next one.
Okay, so this next one is another early member, a little bit different. So let's go ahead and tell me how you guys think about this one.
Yeah, so so in this case, when we're looking at it, when the team, assistant manager at our North location got this score, again, some of those same warning signs are there, right? Not as much of the open source feedback, right? But they're seeing, exercise, routine, 4-4-3. Those are all sort of red flags. Personally, for me, when I see us at a 6, I'm feeling welcomed. I want us to address that.
Right.
We really want to make a value. The most beautiful sound in the whole wide world to anybody is their name. And so often when I'm in clubs, I'll do a $5 challenge with our team and say, if you can tell me the next 5 people to come as they come in, tell me their name before they scan in, I'll give you $5. So in this case, I'd want Lane, our assistant manager at North, to get to know Anthony, and call Anthony by name, make him feel welcomed, maybe even help connect him in with another member who's there at that same time, introduce him. But there's something about what's going on in the club that Val, our manager at North, Lane, who's there when Anthony's coming in, and that the members are doing, that's creating an incredible atmosphere. And that's what I love, right? So I would want to make sure that Lane was intentional about connecting him. Let's get him connected into a orientation with a trainer. Maybe that would help him come up with a plan to have that routine that he needs. But let's be intentional about fostering that atmosphere, because if we keep that atmosphere where it's at, in his view, that awesome atmosphere, it's going to be a win for us. This club's, honestly, I think that they do a fantastic job of it. I was telling you earlier, Blair, before the call, that we had a member who was, in his 70s, and he had made a goal to swim that many miles the month he turned 72, I think. And so the morning that he was going to swim his 72nd mile, I think he was swimming like 3 miles a day. They had it all ready. And so when he came out of the pool, and they're like, "Did you get it?" He said, "Yeah." And they went in the back room and they pulled out balloons with 72 on it, right? They took his picture, because they listen, they know, they're engaged with the members, right? And the part that kills me on that is that club does that so well. And they're the club that missed the 5 nines by the 10th of a point, right?
And those ideas like that, those aren't coming from you guys. That's coming from the people on the ground, right? That's
absolutely. That's Lane and Val driving that.
Yep. That's and by the way, what I'm not showing in these cases, just out of privacy, is all of the data that comes with this case. You already
Yeah,
heard Trey refer to this person by name. It knows how engaged they are by how many visits they're doing. It knows a lot about this member. So they get to see it in context, so that when you're reaching out to pick up money off the ground, it makes it that much easier to do. And it's
absolutely.
really important to have, really rich data on each person as it comes in, because that allows your front lines to make it, just makes life a lot easier picking up money on the ground. Now we're going to move to just a piece of core feedback, and then I'll stop my screen share and we'll just chat here for a minute. So this is a piece of core feedback that came in. Again, of course, this would come in with the context of the member, the gender, the visits, the spend, everything that you need to know about the member. And this is about their ongoing experience here.
Yeah,
And in this one, they left no commentary in this, but they're still communicating something to you, right?
yeah.
They're telling a story here. Go ahead.
So yeah, so hopefully the manager at this club, when they're looking at it, one, I want to celebrate with them. They've got a lot of tens, right? They're doing a lot really well, including that NPS score, likelihood to recommend 10, right? So this is a promoter. But there's two things that jump out at me when I look at it beyond all the tens. Is one, that fitness result, right? So that's another, on the core side, it's a warning on the new member side. It also is an alert on the member side. They're not getting the results they want, and long term, if they don't get the results they want from us, they're going to look elsewhere on that. And so we have practical solutions, right? Let's put her in an orientation. Let's get them connected with a trainer. If that's not working for them, it looks like they haven't tried Group X fitness classes yet, because that's an NA. Let's get them connected to an instructor. Have them, talk through what classes they may be interested in. The other thing that jumps out to me is, and I would want our team for it to jump out at them as they're processing this, is they love us, but there's a 50-50 chance that they're not going to be with us in 6 months. And so to me, when I'm looking at it, I process that as there's probably something going on in their life. There's a job change happening, some type of personal change happening. But it's a great chance to reach out and say, hey, I know you really seem to enjoy the gym, but there's a couple things I want to see if we can help you with. One, fitness results, let's address those. Two, it looks like there's a 50-50 chance you might not be with us in 6 months. And is there anything we can do to help you, and if they're moving, that's still a chance for us to be a concierge and to care for them, right? In fact, we had a member a few years ago come into our West Side Club, and they were moving for 3 months to Seattle to go spend time with their daughter out there. And so our assistant manager said, well, what city are you actually going to be at? And then he went online. He found a gym that was nearby that offered similar amenities to what she had here in Evansville. He called out there, got their rates for her, got them connected, because he's like, I don't want you to lose the progress you've made while you've been with us when you go out to visit your daughter. They're just a couple miles from her house, and I think it'd be a great fit for you. Her actually going to the gym, that's on her, right? But doing everything we can to care for our members and show that we value them, even as they're telling us we're not going to pay you for the next 3 months because we're going away, but putting that value on saying we care about you, when that's coming from our team, and that's cultural, when that's that's money on the balance sheet, right? But when we can do it consistently, you pick up a lot of money off the ground, because she's going to recommend, she's going to be engaged.
Right. That's right. I think that's the cancellation process, I've always said, is one of the processes that should be really thoughtfully designed to create raving fans. Like, how do we create a raving fan during the cancellation process? Of what people have heard me say this so many times before. We call it the alumni creation process, and you can become a free alumni or a premium alumni. Premium alumni pays us, I think we're at $10 a month. They pay us. They're still canceled. We still count them as canceled, but they can come back at any time without an enrollment fee. They get a few benefits as an alumni. I think there's some real opportunity there also to sort of have that concierge service. That is just an outstanding example. And in this piece of feedback, you know, that likely to be a member in 6 months, and fitness results may be working in tandem here, you know, and it's a real opportunity. The money on the ground, you know, I said is saves, sales, and servicing. And in each of these, we've seen the opportunity for all three of those things, just to reach out and just how much a company just doing that. And how much time do you think your front lines spend doing that in a day with the feedback they get?
I mean, they're not, you know, it's probably half an hour,
Yeah.
you know, on the going through the report and making the calls and sending the emails and following up with the members, right? For the most part, it's not a long journey. You know, they're getting, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 pieces of feedback a day, you know, and spending a couple minutes with each one of them. Sometimes it's as simple as saying, you know, we appreciate that you value us so much. We appreciate you as a member. Thank you so much for making us who we are. And then move on, because the person hasn't given any feedback really beyond tens, right? And with nothing else added there, right? Straight tens on the board. And we love those scores, but I love also when we have a chance to really address issues for our members and begin to take them down the journey of you know, caring for them and helping them reach their goals and become lifelong members.
Yeah. So, and by the way, we're getting some questions in here. Danielle from Kentucky, what steps do you take to help increase the fitness results satisfaction from members? Do you want to jump in on that, Trey?
I mean, for us, it starts with that orientation, right? So that's a chance. The way we explain it to our members is a chance to sit down, talk through where you're at right now. We use our InBody scanner often if they're at the club with the InBody, you know, to sort of set some benchmarks for them. Because so often, especially ladies, have one number that they're looking at, and that's the scale. But there's a lot to their fitness that we can celebrate along the way, and that number on the scale may never change, but their fitness results are changing. And so the InBody scanner helps give them that bigger picture of what's going on. But
I think that's such a great. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No.
Well, because you just hit on something that I think is really important on improving fitness results, and that is they need to see results now, right? Like immediately, and not think that if they come in to lose 20 pounds or whatever it is, and I hope, I mean, so far a lot more people aren't talking about losing weight; they're just talking about feeling better, right?
Yep.
What an opportunity to see an early result, you know, instead of feeling like effort. I've said this before, and the result is out beyond my cognitive horizon. One of the things that I really love, I'm a big fan of MyZone, and they've got to, if we have to recouch, I think, what results are. So Danielle, I think one of the opportunities is, as we're onboarding members, is to say, you know, here's what success would look like for you in the first month: 12 workouts. That would be a great result for you to get, and start talking about the inputs as a result. You know, if the more that we can talk about the inputs as a result, you know, your body scan goes from, you know, this metric to this metric in this amount of time. You earn this many MyZone effort points.
Yeah.
Talk about everything that could make them feel good. That is an input that's trying to get to that ultimate outcome for them, which might be losing the 40 pounds. Then they start to reset what results are. And I think that was for us. I think we have maybe a couple of thousand MyZone units out among our membership base. I think that's one of the things that helped us bump our fitness results scores up, is sort of recouching it. You know, I think that's, yeah. There is a question here, and it's to me. It says, I saw your LinkedIn post on the card idea you mentioned in the. How do you coach people? Okay, so I posted a video. We use these little greeting cards, Trey. They're just blank, and then they have the, you know, our gym logo on it. And we have 2 clubs, and each gym sends out 75 of those a month. And it's literally just something to say to a member. And it's front desk staff, it's group fitness, it's trainers, it's housekeeping, anybody. There's a stack of them. we train people to notice the small things. So Trey, you may have been a member for 15 years and you come in every morning and somebody's going to eventually say, you know, that guy is always pleasant when he comes in, and they're going to write a card that simply says, Trey, thanks for being the member and for making our day. You're always upbeat and positive to us, you know, something like that. They handwrite it, they fold it, they put an envelope, they handwrite on the outside of the envelope. Then manager picks them up, stamps them, and goes and drops them in the mail. We've been doing that for a long time. I've probably, there's probably not a better marketing piece we have ever done. So the question was, how do you train people to notice those small things? I think one of the best ways, like, how do you want to talk about that a little bit, about training people to notice small things?
Well, I want to hear what you had to say, because you've got something that's clearly working. So,
Yeah,
I love learning from you.
Well, you know, it's this. You can do, you know, case studies. When you're training people, be very deliberate. You can say, you could, like, if you're talking about the cards and you're saying, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to notice the small things. So I'm gonna give you guys some profiles, and you just make them up. You know, this is Mary Jones. She's been a member for 3 months. She comes in at these times. Here's some information about Mary. Here's some, what do you notice there that you could write a card about and say, well, she comes in a lot. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Bet you just started, been a member for 3 months, and you've been very consistent, Mary. We noticed it.
Yeah.
You know, it's literally anything like that. And you can kind of create you could like forever create, you know, 20 of these personas, and then people, it makes it easy for them to look at. We also have a framework. We call them M&Ms. They're called memorable moments. And we have, you know, everyday memorable moments all the way up to what we call over the top memorable moments. And we teach people of when they're going to occur, what to look for, and when you notice them, what does that drive? And so the balloons, the 72 balloons for your swimmer, that's an over the top memorable moment. That, and the over the top and sort of non day-to-day memorable moments require people to kind of leave what we call their whirlwind, or you have to pull yourself out of your regular operations to notice something, to do something that's outside of your normal job, right? So that's how frameworks that we use. But it's really just being very explicit. You can't just say, notice the small things. You say, here's a small thing. You know, here's what it looks like.
And creating that culture, I think that thing that happens when you start celebrating the employees who are doing that, right? So when Lane and Val did that, that became a base camp post, right? You know, we celebrated that across our company. We had another employee who, it was raining really hard one day, and he got an umbrella out and walked a member to her car, right? You know, and
that's perfect.
We celebrated that, right? You know, we had a member whose car died, and our maintenance guy went out and helped jumpstart her car in the middle of a storm, right? And we celebrated, you know, and so it's celebrating every one of those moments of action. It creates this library for your employees to come back to and go, this is how we do customer service in a way that really honors our members, right? And creates that boiling point.
Yeah. Another, let's see, what's something I just saw, Jacky from West Lafayette. Can you share the most unique way you've ever found money on the ground? Yes, I literally found money on the ground. No, I don't know that that's interesting, because they aren't usually that unique. I was thinking, and I should have brought this up when we had that one piece of feedback up, like some of the early member feedback, when people are having a really good experience, but you see they don't have a sustainable exercise routine, and maybe they can't afford a trainer. I do think there are some unique opportunities there to ask them if there's, we always ask for referrals, but it's different when it's in the context of how do we help you win?
Yeah.
Like maybe there's an opportunity. Do you have a friend that can be your guest in here for 3 weeks or 2 weeks or something? And we can maybe help you guys create a sustainable program together, because we know that people that exercise together tend to stick with it more. I think most of the money on the ground opportunities are really obvious, and they are those, you know, sales, saves, and servicing. Any thoughts? Yeah.
No, I think that it really, each one of those money on the ground things, they're a little unique, right? They're different. They're because they're customized to the member, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got a different story at a different place of how they got there, but it comes from just listening, having those conversations, and then connecting to what their real need is, right? I think when we talked a couple weeks ago or a week ago, Blair, I said that we need to sort of borrow from Lin-Manuel Miranda in Hamilton, right? Where Aaron Burr is giving advice to young Alexander Hamilton. He says, talk less, listen more. I come from a background where I love to talk. That's part of what I did professionally for a long time. But when we start listening to our members, they tell us where the money is. They point the way, and it's really easy to find it if you just start listening to them and really care about what they have to say.
Something else I noticed too, there's like almost a switch that flips with the organizations that really start to understand this. And I notice it when I go through your feedback and look at how your teams respond to members and how they engage with them. There's a question here that says, what is the most difficult piece of feedback that you've had to address? What was the process like when trying to create a positive outcome? Okay. And I'll say that for us, everybody that responds they create positive outcomes, and they get used to addressing what can be negative feedback at times. There is a big difference between understanding that these 5, 6 pieces of feedback that come in each day could be the most important marketing activity you have in a day. It could represent your brand more than anything else you do today, and having it be a part of your strategy. Because what that does is it has people understand that what they're doing is very purposeful and important. The minute it feels like a task I got to check off, then that's when you don't get good outcomes from a negative piece of feedback. And difficult pieces of feedback come in funny shapes, right? Difficult pieces of feedback are like, you're too crowded and you're too expensive. Well, now wait a minute. Well, yeah. Then you teach people to say, well, one of the things we do with our price, if you're a higher price, then you say one of the things we're trying to do with our price is to mitigate against being way too overcrowded. So and you can do some explanation. Your front desk is really rude. When you know that you just looked in your front desk staff friendliness scores over any period or 9.3 or higher, it's not rude, right? And oftentimes, then how do you respond to that? You don't. Number one is you don't defend.
Yeah.
You don't say no, you're not, right? But there are opportunities to say, you know what, if that happened to me, I'd feel the same way. And think about empathizing. We don't like to mention scores in feedback. We don't say we saw that you gave us a low score for kids club, because that puts the onus back on that person. What we say is, looks like we're not living up to your expectations on kids club.
Yeah.
How can we help? Right. So handling difficult feedback requires empathy and thoughtfulness, and also not throwing your team under the bus when you respond.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes they're very, the tough ones are the ones where they're very specific, right? And they say, I didn't like what Tony did, right? And Tony, and you love Tony, and as a whole, Tony's got great comments. So and so addressing the member, letting the member feel heard and valued, right? And finding out if there's an issue, an underlying issue, because the truth is, Tony could have a bad day. Trey has bad days, or the member could be having a bad day, and they could have been really ticked with, Papa John's who burned their pizza, but they just happened to get the survey request from BeFit, and they can't take it out on Papa John's, but they can at that moment, or they had a bad day at work and their boss came down on them, and they just take it out on the survey, and it doesn't really tell the story. That's why on some of those things you have to look at the big picture, right? What are we doing over the last 90 days? Are we friendly, right? It's not just a one-time score, but if there's a pattern there that emerges, if you see something dropping, then it's time to step in and evaluate.
That's right. And I got to give this Keith Elliott, who runs the whole MXM program and gets it embedded and does a lot of the teaching and coaching at EOS Fitness. They have 60 to 63 locations. Keith does a fabulous job, and he put a tip in here that I'm going to read. And Keith really teaches at scale, right? I think they're in 5 states now, and they have onboarding in every state, cultural onboarding in every state. Keith really teaches the front lines. I think in each location, there are 4 or 5 people that close the loop. Tip, I coach our fitness teams, so the personal training teams in our clubs, to utilize the Department Insights tab and click on the subcategory fitness results. At the top of every month, run the previous month and review the member surveys. If staff sees 0 through 8 on fitness results, review their account, see if they've utilized their welcome workout. If not, call the member, have a conversation, offer a complimentary session to help push their fitness results forward.
Yep.
Very money on the ground. And
Yep.
what they're doing is they're finding a whole bunch of these, right? So they're using filtering to find a whole bunch of them. Here's everybody. Here's everybody you can call these people and help them, right? That's outstanding. I want to, this was primarily about money on the ground.
Yep.
But to set up our next one, where I think we're going to bring in Keith Elliott either from EOS on our next one, where we're going to start to focus more on money on the table, and then the last one in this particular series will be about money on the balance sheet. Some of the money on the table things, like can you talk about how you might evaluate? You said you see a trend. Do you like formally get people together in a room and say, how do you do root cause on something in order to move to money on the table?
Yeah, so about quarterly, I go through our, the data, sort of like what Keith was talking about, and look for, how are things changing, right? Where are the issues that are really coming up, surfacing, so, in fact, just last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago, I sent out, to our leadership team. I said, here's where we're at, right? Our lowest performing area metric on the core survey over the last quarter was locker rooms, right? Except for at one club who didn't have it. And that club actually scored like a 9.1 on locker rooms. And that was North, where we just did a locker room renovation, right? And so, but for us, we know that that's an issue. And so, so we've got a plan in place now. Our Newburgh club is going to get a locker room renovation this summer. Our East Side facility is getting a whole new location, so they get locker rooms in the whole deal. And our West Side, we've got to figure out a strategy for how do we improve that, right? But it starts by looking, being systematic and looking at it and going, what are the areas, what are the barriers, because I think of it like the old oaken barrels, right? That had the little sleeves on the side, and each little thing, whatever the lowest thing was, that's where the water leaked. And if you could raise that one bar, you got to hire across the board, right? And if we can address some of those problem areas, when we see concurrent themes coming up, it goes to our leadership team. If it's something that we can address in club, we carry that from our leadership team to our general managers when we meet with them monthly and say, hey, here's what we're noticing in the data. What can we do in the clubs that would make a difference? What can you do? What can your team do? We let them brainstorm some of those ideas, and it's just listening. And then the other part of that on the money on the table, what we found is our marketing department now lets our members write their material, right? And so we take that member feedback, and almost every single week there's a post on Facebook with a picture from one of our members, right? And their real feedback, right? And every new guest that comes in, when they go into the drip that we have, every piece of drip we send out has real feedback from real members, talking about what they love about BeFit. And so our members are now our content creators for our marketing. It makes us much, much easier because it's telling exactly what real members are experiencing.
We talked about that a week ago or so, and I thought that was really cool, is that you said almost every piece of marketing has a member comment on it, came out of MXM, but there was also something else, and you find a piece of feedback where it's sort of a life-changing type story in the feedback.
Yeah.
We're very thankful. And then on your Facebook page, you have a couple of videos. One is Ray's story,
Yeah.
And the other is, I'm trying to remember the other story, the girl's name.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now that you said it, I'm blanking myself, but
So what they've done is they see what just is coming in through the regular member feedback cycle. They see something that says, "Oh my God, this is like such a make you cry type of story." They go and find the member, and they bring a videographer. They tell their story in 2 minutes. Now, I don't know what the population is of Evansville,
uh, area, it's about 200,000.
but Ray's story, I think, had 65,000 views when I went in and looked at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's really cool. To be tying, and I know we're kind of up against our time here, but what you guys are doing is exactly what any company of any size, whether you have one club, whether you're Apple, whether you're, the answer is the same, and that is you have to sort of permeate your entire organization with feedback and metrics that matter, so that they can constantly adjust that product to be better and better for the customer. And you guys, just not only from just the how you close the loop and how engaged you have your front lines, and that you're listening to your employee feedback and doing really thoughtful, the whole thing about God, I almost said HubSpot, the whole thing about Basecamp, and and engaging people on there, and doing it in a way that people, especially younger people, are more used to doing. I think that is a game changer that a lot of people should be looking into. But then also that it becomes the outward flow of communication in your marketing. So Mark Schaefer, Marketing Rebellion, said the most human company wins. And you guys are just kind of, you are doing such a brilliant job of humanizing BeFit by Bob's, and we are just really proud to have you guys as 5 9s winners and as customers.
Well, we're thankful for our partnership with MXM. You guys help make us better. You help us make better employers, better company as a whole. Honestly, I've been a huge fan of MXM for a long time. Even I was a fan before we were a customer. I liked your product better than your competitor. I just lost a debate with a team, and we didn't get to use you to begin with. But even Jenny was, I said, Jenny, I got a contract for a year. And 1 year later, she called back and was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And now and the feedback is such a different level. To know how we stack up against 500 other gyms, and where we're measuring up, how we're competing with our Rex Roundtable, and how we stack up there. And there's so much data that you guys provide, and with your partnership with our software, you guys do such a great job of giving us data that really makes a difference and helps us lead well and care for our members in a really powerful way.
Thank you, Trey. Thank you. I got to tell you, it's been fun. It was fun doing the prep call. This was even fun. And then we'll look forward to hopefully being able to visit you guys at some point here.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
Awesome.
Congratulations on your son.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.